80s garage rock. I'm a big fan of 80s garage rock, more so than even 60s garage rock, though I do love that. But in 80s, things just, to me, it's stronger, it's more vocal. I it what it was just, it took 60s garage rock, but it became the underground music again. It was like a movement that was happening. And it was in LA, it was in Boston, it was in New York, it was all over. But it was a very retro style. And I say it's underground because you just think, what was coming out, the post-punk, you had the synth, you had the new romantics and everything. And so here was something different, but it just really wasn't being accepted by the masses. You had bands like Chesterfield Kings, the Fuzztones, the Pandoras, the Liars coming out and just putting out some phenomenal music, but it was just kind of under. You didn't hear much about it. What's interesting, the garage revival of the 80s, it was more aggressive. It was a definitely more aggressive form of garage rock than what you found in the 60s. 60s, a lot of it was political. But in the 80s, they didn't deal with politics. That wasn't a part of it. What changed the 80s was proto-punk. When you think of the Stooges and the MC5, that kind of anger that came out, that became part of the 80s garage rock, which really gave it that real punch. And I think of bands, when you want to think about that, it's like the Gories, the Headcoats out of the UK, Guitar Wolf out of Japan, Dead Moon. Now those are kind of into the 90s and to the aughts, but think about the power that those groups had. And there was a lot of labels that came up, especially like Get Hit, Bump, Vox, Estrus, all these labels that began to celebrate garage rock. And you can think I think a lot of it really got going when Vox Records in 1981 put out Battle of the Garages. It was just this compilation, and it got people excited about this music that was happening. And of course, then there was, Pebbles were coming out, and you also, you had, Nuggets, and Nuggets was a really big thing. I should have pulled my Nuggets, but you've seen that one. But that got people interested in this, and so it became a new movement. It kind of died out in the 70s, so there were some groups, especially like the Flaming Groovies. The Flaming Groovies was a great garage rock band that kind of kept it going, but things were really changing. But in the 80s, it came back, and in Europe, it really came back strong. One of the best books on garage rock from the 80s is Knights of Fuzz. This thing is a phenomenal tome if you're interested in the garage rock. And I believe you can still find this on Amazon. Really, really nice. It's written by a guy that is a lover of garage rock, and he searched to try to find all these albums, and there's stuff in here you'll just never know. I mean, probably never heard about. The other thing and this is what really got me interested in garage rock, was this CD box set, Children of Nuggets. And I've talked about this numerous times. And it is a 4 CD packed with garage rock. But not only that, you have Paisley Undergrounds on there. There's Power Pop on there. And I'm not going to really bring Paisley Underground into this. A lot will consider that part of garage rock because you definitely had that Byrds influence happening. But that's a whole separate genre when you get into that, which probably is worth talking about and exploring because there's a lot of great music. But this is just an incredibly good box set. I don't think it goes real cheap anymore, sadly. I think you can get them for under $100, but it's 4 CDs, and I've used this to find so many groups. Between this and this, that's how I've learned about garage rock. So what I want to do is, this is just going to be United States, and we're just going to call it the episode 1, okay? I may go 2, 3 more videos with this because there's so much of it. This is just just barely skimming the surface. So let's take a look at this, and I'm going to try to put a playlist together so you could listen to some of this music from these groups instead of making my video really long. That way you can hear the whole songs. I think that'll be a lot better, so we will attach a playlist to this. So let's get into garage rock. Crawdaddies. Crawdaddies were out of California, formed around 78. They only did a couple of albums. Crawdaddies were really into Willie Dixon, Muddy Waters, kind of the blues men, but also there's the Pretty Things you could hear in there, part of what they were liking. Great California band. This Chesterfield Kings were starting up, and the Crawdaddies were starting up. So you could really say that these, were like the godfathers of what was happening in garage rock. Sadly, the Crawdaddies just didn't do as well. They only had 2 albums, while the Chesterfield Kings had quite a few albums. But still, this is just a great slab of what was really happening with how garage rock was going to be changing going into the next decade. And, that one came out in 1979, and that is an original. It's in mono. Goes for around $15. You can get them for as low as $12 on Discogs. So again, something worth looking at. Take a listen to a sample. See what you think of it. 1981, this album came out. This is the Ray Beats, Guitar Beat. And the Ray Beats were out of New York City, and this was their debut album. And they are an instrumental group. Surf rock, garage rock, and there's the label PVC. It definitely very much a lot of surf rock happening here, but there's also that garage rock sound that they put on, and they played with groups like Plan 9 and the Chesterfield Kings, so they were on this circuit going around. And this is a very neat album. If you like instrumentals, if you like surf rock, you definitely would like Ray Beats. An album like this, medium price is $7.50. Easy to find out there. It's still generally in bargain bins or whatever, something to look for. But it came out in 81 and really, getting this whole garage rock thing going. The next band really created this movement. They are the kings of it, in my mind, the Chesterfield Kings. And this is their debut album. This one came out in 1983. Chesterfield Kings were out of Rochester, New York. And they are the ones, there's the label, Mirror Records. They got things really going. They were so good at this. They got people excited. They toured all around. They put out a number of albums, but they're debuted here. Here are the Chesterfield Kings. It's written on, I don't know, maybe that's an autograph from one of them. But just take a look at that. Yeah, it is. There we go. An autograph by this guy here, the bass guitarist. Okay. But look at them haircuts. Talk about really getting into this. Getting into the whole 60s garage rock sound. This thing is incredible. When you think garage rock, what do you need for garage rock? Well, you need to have a Rickenbacker guitar. I think that's very important. Vox organ, Farfisa. I'm saying that completely wrong, that type of organ, but it's very important. And you have to have a vocalist that can snarl. If you can't snarl, you're not going to do very well with garage rock. You have to have that. And they had all of this. This is just, one of the most important garage rock albums out there, in my opinion. And looking at Discogs right now, a medium price on this is like $29.97. You can get... They go for as low as $22 on Discogs. There is a reissue, but the reissue came out in 1985. Why there hasn't been a newer one, I don't know. But awesome album. For those, if you don't have it, this is the one to start. Out of Queens, New York, came the Fleshtones. The Fleshtones, this is their third album, and this came out in 1983. I think their first 2 albums came out in 1982. They actually started in 76. they never really made it big, which it seems kind of odd because at this, they were on the IRS label. And I mean, so this, most of these garage rocks were just on tiny little labels, didn't have a lot of promotion. These guys were on IRS, but for whatever reason, they never caught on. I mean, IRS, they had the Go-Go's, they had the B-52s, so many bands. But this is tongue-in-cheek garage rock. So much fun. These guys are out there just having a great time. All of their albums are very, very good, but it's just a band enjoying themselves, taking that 60s sound, but again, not political or anything. We're just having a good time. When you look at an album like this goes for, what give you here, and an average. What I have here, it is an original, and $5.63. $5.63 on Discogs. Actually, there's 10 of them. There's for sale starting at $10, so don't ask me why. But very inexpensive, but very good garage rock. And their first couple albums are excellent to get. As a lot of these bands went forward, began to get a little more repetitious and stuff. But this one, it gets you happy. It gets you rolling. So Fleshtones, worth looking. Next cool band. If you have the Fleshtones, then you got to have the Fuzztones. You got to have, Flesh and Fuzz. This is the debut of the Fuzztones, and it's kind of an EP. It's a 45 RPM. You can just see, look at that. Look at that. You know what you're getting. You're just going to get some phenomenal kind of stuff. This band was similar, especially on this album, to Steppenwolf. You can hear some of that, the feel of Steppenwolf within the music. And snarling, vocalist, you have all that happening. They were out of New York, and they were one of the first really New York bands to embrace that total 60s type vibe and look with the hair and the clothes and everything. And yeah, they did pretty well. You can find some Fuzztone albums out there. An album like this right now has a medium price on Discogs of $17.50. You can get them, there's one on sale for $15. So, and that is an original. A fun group. Again, you just look at that. We got the Vox organ just right there sitting with it. It has all the sounds that you love of garage rock, and a vocalist that snarls. I mean, that guy just sounds like he's mad and pissed. What more could you ask for in a great garage rock band? One of my all-time favorite garage rock bands, and they're still out there playing out of Boston, The Liars. Now, The Liars is basically a band of Jeff Connolly and a revolving cast of characters. This is... You have that proto-punk going on. The Liars are tough. They're hard. They come out swinging. Incredible music. And their first 3 albums were wonderful. This one has the song Help You In. Wonderful slab of garage rock, but definitely a harder version. I mean, it pounds you, which is what I really, really like about the Liars. And, they just kept it going. There's so much grit to their music. An album like this, right now, it goes, let me get the right one here. You can find this one. Average price on Discogs is $18. They have some for sale for $18. Take a listen, again, to that playlist. You can hear the excitement that comes out of this group. Just a hard-charging, fun stuff. Boston's own Liars. You just never go wrong with the Liars. And this album came out in 1984. And it's the debut. The queen of garage rock was Paula Pierce, and her group was the Pandoras. And, the very first song on his, It's About Time, it has almost like a Paisley Underground feel. But after that, this thing goes hard into great garage rock. And, this group could play. They knew what they were doing. And they just put out some incredible incredible stuff. And this is their debut album. Vox Records, It's About Time is the name of the album. And this, it's so good. You know, when you think of some of the most important garage rock albums of the 80s, this is definitely a top tenor. You know, Chesterfield Kings, you have this. I'd throw them Liars right up there. But really great stuff. You know, if you want an original right now, medium price on this is $28. You can find them on sale on Discogs for $24. There's probably reissues out there, maybe cheaper, I don't know. But I'm just kind of giving you the price of the ones that I have here. But they show what the ladies can do when it comes to garage rock, and they can come out strong and right at you and make really exciting music. If you like a little snarl in your music, something that just almost kind of scares you, the Miracle Workers. Incredibly good album, Inside Out. This is the Miracle Workers' third album. They were out of Portland, Oregon, and this one came out in 1985. Yeah, we still have some of those kind of haircuts from the 60s. This group stayed together. It's one of the few garage bands out there that actually kept all their members. So they must have been doing something right, selling albums, having, you know, concerts where people were excited. But their first couple albums are well worth seeking out. I don't have them yet, but I did get this one because this is one I'd read was just like their best album. So how could you not want to get that? Looking at Discogs right now, this one goes for around $36. They go from $17 all the way up to $114. Can't tell you what the $17 one's like. But just a wonderful slab of great 80s garage rock. You'd swear to God you're back in the 60s when you listen to this thing. The Miracle Workers, Inside Out. Another band out of California, way down south in San Diego, the Telltale Hearts. And this is their EP that they put out, The Now Sound of the Telltale Hearts. And yeah, these guys had the look, they had the feel, they had the music that was 80s, that was 60s, California 60s garage rock. They really had that thing down. This is a beautiful album off of Vox. And, you know, they formed from the remains from the Mystery Machine and the Crawdaddies. And so they formed this. They put out a few albums, not that many, but they really, again, if you haven't heard them, well worth taking a listen. An album like this, they're never really been reached. This is average price of $19.30. You can get it for as cheap as $9 on Discogs. So just a wonderful band out of California. They got the look, man. You got the look. The Telltale Hearts. Michigan, of course, had some garage rock, and they had the Hysteric Narcotics. And this is Batteries Not Included out of Livonia, Michigan. And this is well produced. It sounds really good. They've never reissued it. It only came out once. They've only put out one album, and that is all you will find from the Hysteric Narcotics. It's not that expensive, and it's off Rough Scallion Records. How's that for a cool label? Master Pack by Eurodisc. But they're showing what can be done in the state of Michigan. These guys toured around Michigan. They definitely were a Michigan band. They never really broke out of the borders. Maybe they made it into Indiana. I'm not quite sure. But really phenomenally good sounding. And I know I keep saying that about all of them, but it does sound good. On this Discogs, a medium price of $11. You can get it for, if they have one for sale, for $9. So it's easy to get one of these albums and really enjoy some incredibly hard charging garage rock. Another monster band that's still going to this day, the Cynics, the band of Mike Kostelic, who also formed Get Hip Records. It's said that the live performance of this band, and they're out of Pittsburgh, was so incredible. It was frantic. it got people foaming in the mouth. It was so dang exciting. They really took garage rock and they upped it. They made it so exciting. This is off this Get Hip Records. Get Hip Records, it's a label out of Pittsburgh. This one came out in 1987. This is a repress from 1994. The nice thing about the Cynics is they have been repressed because, again, the the guy from the Cynics owns Get Hip's Records. So you can get these very inexpensive, but it is some incredibly good rock. I have a number of Cynics albums, but this one here, Blue Train Station, just kind of tells you, here's where we're going. This is what we're going to do. This one here has, and I can't believe I didn't hit that. Again, it's a reissue, an average price of $19. And there's quite a few out there for sale. But you can get newer reissues or try and get an original. But they amped up the garage rock and brought it to the 90s and into this century. Great band out of Pittsburgh, the Cynics. Another all-female band is The Brood. And The Brood formed in '83 out of Portland, Oregon again. At first, are those guys or gals? No, they are guys. But they really went in for those haircuts and that look, that 60s retro look. They put out 4 albums. The lead singer, she snarls also, but they have all the makings of garage rock. You got the guitars, you got the organ happening, and definitely the voice. These gals are loud, they come out strong, very exciting stuff. It is on the Get Hip label. And this here is a nice original. Again, you could find this. This average price of $20 on Discogs. It starts anywhere from $9 on up. And this is The Brood in Spite of It All. And yeah, you could just see you're in for a really good time with this. The final one I want to show is this, 1313 Mockingbird Lane. And the name of the album is Have Hearse Will Travel. This came out in 1990, and they're out of Albany, New York. They put out 3 albums. This is the first album that they put out. This is definitely garage rock, but you could also give it some horror rock or horrorbilly if you want, psychobilly. And that's off Who's Driving My Plane label. That's awesome. Now, for those of you a little bit older, 1313 Mockingbird Lane, do you recognize the address? That's the Munsters address from the old Munsters show in the 60s. So 3 guys and a gal playing, and they're playing. We got the organ going on. We got the right kind of guitars, and definitely snarls in the voice. But songs like Dig Her Up and The Black Car, Jack the Ripper, and Ooga Ooga Baby. This is a great album. This is so much fun. Medium price on Discogs is $28. They started at around $30. But if you want to have a good time, try 1313 Mockingbird Lane. They kind of crack me up. So that's what we got for the U.S. Every time I dig into those cubes, I can pull out more garage rock. But you're going to show so much. But I'm going to go next into Canada, into Europe, to show what was happening there down in Australia, because garage rock was going everywhere in the 80s. It was so exciting on what was happening. So I hope you come back and join me as I visit some other countries with some incredibly phenomenal garage rock groups. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.